Hi, algebra students. We're going to take a look at our notes for section 7.2 on multiplying polynomials. So if you notice, we're going to look at two methods. So the first method we're going to focus on is called the FOIL method. That is an acronym that stands for first, outer, inner, last. And I'll explain that as we go along. We'll also review it in class tomorrow. And then it's also going to contain some like terms. So if you remember yesterday, we talked about classifying polynomials and adding and subtracting them. So all of that is going to come into play in this lesson as well. And then we'll look at a second method in just a moment also. Okay, so notice in this first section, we're focusing on multiplying a binomial times a binomial. So that means we have two terms in the first factor and two terms in the second factor. So we're going to start by using our FOIL method. Grab a pen up here. Okay, so again, just think about these words as we work through the problem. So F stands for first, so we're going to multiply our first two terms. So that's x times x. And you add these together as we go. Then we're going to pick up our outer terms. Our outers are x times 5. Our inners are 3 times x. And our two last terms would be 3 times 5. Whoops, we need an addition sign in there. Okay, so let's just clean this up. So simplifying inside of these parentheses here, x times x, remember, is x squared, not 2x. You're multiplying here. And then x times 5, we write that as 5x. 3 times x is 3x, and 3 times 5 is 15. So at this point, our final step is just to combine these like terms. So our final answer is x squared plus 8x plus 15. Okay, and at this point, before you move to the next problem, you always just want to make sure that your final answer is in standard form. If you notice up here, it does say that in your directions. So remember, that means you start with the variable with the largest exponent. You go in descending order, and you always end with your constant. Most of the time, your answers will just end up that way naturally. Okay, so in problem number 2, let's look at this one below. Again, we're going to use our FOIL method on this one. This one is a little different just because it has a one addition and one subtraction. And then we also have a leading coefficient in this first factor. So let's look at how that's going to work out. So we have 3x times x for our first. Our outers, watch your signs here. It's 3x times negative 2. Our inners is 4 times x. And then our two last terms is 4 times negative 2. It's a negative there, and of course you need addition sign between there. Sorry about that. This middle line that I'm writing right here is eventually what you would be thinking or doing in your head. I'm just trying to write it out for you so you can kind of see how that looks and where my thinking is coming from. So let's again simplify all of this. 3x times x is 3x squared. And then we have 3x times negative 2, which is negative 6x. 4 times x is 4x. And then 4 times negative 2 is negative 8. Okay, so I'm just going to put all this together, and I'm also going to clean up my signs here a little bit. So we have 3x squared, because I have no other x squareds to combine that with. I'm going to combine my like terms here in the middle. Notice this is negative and this is positive, so that leaves me with a negative 2x. So notice I'm just writing that as minus 2x, and then instead of writing plus negative 8, I'm just going to clean up my signs there and write minus 8. And my final answer is in standard form, so that's it, and I'm going to leave it there and move on. Okay, so this next method, it says use a box to multiply and then combine your like terms. So I just call this is just what I call the box method, okay? And some of you are going to like this, and some of you are going to prefer to FOIL. It's just a matter of preference. So in the box method, you just set it up just like this. You would just draw a little box right here, and then one of your binomials goes across the top, and one of your binomials goes down the side, and it really doesn't matter which goes where. The thing is, you just need to remember to include signs. So pay attention to your sign work. We'll especially talk about that in this next one down here. Okay, so when you multiply, think about this like a multiplication chart that you saw in elementary school. So you do x times x, which is x squared. And again, you're just doing that in your head. and then 3 times x is 3x. And then for this column, you always do the column times the row, so x times 5 is 5x. And then 3 times 5 is 15. Okay, and just like you saw in the directions up here, it says you're going to combine your like terms on the diagonal. So if you notice, here we go, what you have here is this term here. Doesn't like that. I'm trying to grab a highlighter for you so you can see that. Okay, so we're going to grab this term here and this term here. Let me switch colors real quick. Okay, so we have these two terms, 5x and 3x. When we write that, and again, you just have to remember to put it in standard form, is x squared, and then this is positive 3 and positive 5, so that would give me 8x plus 15. So if you notice, this answer is exactly the same answer we got over here. Same answer, we just used a completely different process. So this one down here, let's look at it, this process again, and it's a different problem than what you saw over here, so of course the answer is not going to be the same. So again, write your first binomial across the top. Notice I'm going to keep that subtraction sign with the 8, and then the 4x plus 8 goes down the side, okay? When you multiply these two these two factors here, remember you multiply the coefficients and you multiply the variables. So 4 times 4 is 16, x times x is x squared. Careful with that. Here you're multiplying a variable term times a constant, so you just multiply these numbers. 8 times 4 is 32x. And then we have, let's see, negative 8 times positive 4x, so negative 32x. And then negative 8 times positive 8 is negative 64. So what you'll notice on this one, when you combine those like terms in the middle, you have a positive 32x and a negative 32x, which cancel each other out. So my final answer on this one is 16x squared minus 64. All right, we're going to keep going. You'll see this again. This time we're going to move to a binomial times a trinomial. So what you'll notice is we have, again, a binomial in our first factor, so 2 terms, and then 3 terms, or a trinomial in our second factor. So the FOIL method does not work with this kind of a problem. So I'm going to show you 2 different methods. The first method is just where we distribute, and then the second I'm going to show you how to stack them, and then I'm going to show you 3 methods, and then we're going to box one too. So you can, again, you can kind of decide. So the distributive method is again just kind of like using your distributive property. The only difference is because you have two factors inside of this this first set of parentheses, you have to distribute both. Okay, so you can start with either one first. I'm going to start with the 5. So if we do 5 times 2x squared, that is 10x squared. And then we have 5 times negative 3x, which is negative 15x, and then 5 times negative 5 is negative 25. Okay, so I've distributed my first number. Now I'm going to go back and I'm going to pick up my 6x and I'm going to distribute that. So notice I'm using a different color for this. So I have 6x times 2x squared. So that's a positive, let's see, 6 times 2 is 12. X squared times x is x cubed. And then 6x times negative 3x would be negative 18x squared. 6x times negative 5 is negative 30x. Okay, and then at this point, I'm going to go ahead and pick up my like terms. And remember, when I do this, I also want to think about writing my answer in descending order. So I can see right now that my largest power is x cubed. So I'm going to start with that 12x cubed, and I don't have anything to put with that. I have a positive 10x squared and a negative 18x squared. So that gives me a minus 8x squared. I have a negative 15x and a negative 30x. So those are the same sign, so I add and keep. So that's negative 45x. And then I have this negative 25 that stands alone. Okay, so my final answer is just a polynomial that contains 4 terms. Okay, so let's really quick move on to method 2, which is just stacking these. And so when you stack them, this method reminds me of how we learned to multiply in elementary school. So like if you were doing 654 times 32 and you stack them on top of each other. So you may, again, this might be something you like or you don't like. If you're stacking them, you always put the longer polynomial on the top. So I would start with the trinomial on the top. 2x squared minus 3x minus 5. And then on the bottom, and you line up, let's see, 6x plus 5. You don't have to line up like terms. Just stack those on top of each other. I put a multiplication sign there to show that I'm multiplying. And then just like you would if you were multiplying this problem here, you would start with your 5. 5 times negative 5 is negative 25. 5 times negative 3x is negative 15x. 5 times 2x squared is 10x squared. Okay, just like you would if you were multiplying this, you indent 1 and you start with your second term and you multiply here. 6x times negative 5 is negative 30x. 6 times negative 3 is negative 18x squared. And then 6x times 2x squared is 12x cubed. Sorry, I missed my 12 there. Okay, and then you add those together, again, just like you would in a problem like this. The reason I like this one is because it does kind of align all of your like terms naturally for you and sets it up already in descending order. So if you add down, you get the 12x cubed minus 8x squared minus 45x minus 25. Perfect. Okay, so same answer we got up here, just using a different method. All right, and this next one, I'm going to show you the box method. So this works exactly the same as we utilized before. Now we just have a trinomial times a binomial. So I pick up another color here, and sorry, I kind of overutilized my space here. But as you can see, this box, because we have 2 terms times 3 terms, it's now a 3 by 2. So that means our trinomial has to go across the top. So I'm going to put my 2x squared plus 7x minus 8 across the top, and then my 3x minus 5 down the side. And then just, again, multiply the column times the row. 3 times 2 is 6. X times x squared is x cubed. 7 times 3 is 21. X times x is x squared. 3 times negative 8 is negative 24x. Then do the same thing with this term here. 2 times negative 5 is negative 10x squared. 7x times negative 5 is negative 35x, and then negative 8 times negative 5 is positive 40. Okay, so just like we did last time, now we're going to pick up our like terms, and again, generally those will be on the diagonal. So you can see them there, and you can see them there. So we're going to pick those up, and we're just going to put them together. So always, again, start with your largest exponent. So we have 6x cubed. 21x squared minus 10x squared is negative 11x squared. Negative 24x minus 35x, we add and keep those. So let's see, 39x. Let me check my math. 3, 4, 5. Nope, I added wrong. Need to fix that. Okay, 3, 4, 5. So 59x and then plus 40. Is my final answer. And again, you can see that that is in already descending order. So 3, 2, 1, and then my constant. Okay? All right, so I hope that you've gotten a lot out of this. Certainly have a lot to think about this evening, so we'll get back together tomorrow and discuss what you learned about multiplying polynomials. Have a great night.